I want to welcome you all here this morning to Stanley Holmes Village for this news conference the mayor wanted to call. The residents have been making their voices heard lately as far as some conditions here, so Mayor Small wanted to call this news conference to let everybody know what the city's doing to address that. This morning you're also going to be hearing from Dale Finch, our Director of Licensing and Inspection, Jared Barnes, our Director of Health and Human Services, and Captain Mike Famularo, Deputy Coordinator of the Office of Emergency Management. But we're going to begin with the Mayor of the great city of Atlantic City, Marty Small Sr.
And good morning, everyone. Good morning. And it's a great day here in the city of Atlantic City. Can we say great day?
Great day.
Great day, yes. I'm Mayor Marty Small Sr. I'm Mayor of the great city of Atlantic City. And this is to inform the residents and the public of the city's ongoing aggressive approach and response. Let me take everyone back. We had a meeting when we found out about the conditions going on in Stanley Holmes Village with residents having lack of heat and or hot water. We immediately called the meeting and we put together an emergency declaration. And what that does, it gives the city emergency spending powers. It gives us extra powers to enforce the law. And even though the Atlantic City Housing Authority is not under the city of Atlantic City's jurisdiction, we felt that these are residents of Atlantic City and they do not deserve to live in the inhumane conditions that they were living in. And it wasn't only with Stanley Holmes Village, but it was in multiple housing authority units. The Housing Authority Board and the Housing Authority organization has been under a zero threshold under the federal government, which supersedes the Housing Authority, HUD. They've been under that since, I believe, July of 2021. They haven't had a board meeting in a long time, so expenditures couldn't have been spent and contracts have lapsed. What happened under those conditions? Contractors stopped showing up, trash stopped being picked up. So under our emergency powers, the very next day, 7 a.m., the city's public works team, along with our private contractor, came in and helped to remove trash and everything else. Now you have to understand that even though the city of Atlantic City has no jurisdiction over the housing authority, the mayor's office gets the calls all the time. And we wanted to assess the situation. We're not going to govern on feelings and emotion on what people think that we should do. That's not why we were elected. You have to assess the situation and put it on the facts and data. And the facts showed that the Atlantic City Housing Authority needed help. I can't tell you guys how thankful we are for Councilwoman Stephanie Marshall, who's also the board chairperson for the Housing Authority, who has worked diligently and tirelessly along with Councilman Kaleem Shabazz. In addition to that, we've been in touch with the interim executive director, John Clark. This was not a gotcha moment. When we called that press conference to urge HUD to release the zero threshold, less than an hour later, things started moving. That was because of the mayor's office aggressive response for the residents of Atlantic City. So then you have to understand the information that you're getting from the residents. We heard it was 7 units that didn't have heat or hot water. Then we heard it was 100. Then we heard it was all. So we have to take into consideration everything. So we dispatched our professionals to the Housing Authority and we tried to get a bigger picture. Yes, some residents were displaced. They were put up in hotels, and the right thing to do because, listen, we're not even at the tip of the winter yet. And because of the aging infrastructure on this property, more likely than not, we're going to have an issue again. So that takes us to the next step. We held a meeting last week, and this administration's foundation is built on partnership. So we got with the Atlantic County Office of Emergency Management, we got with Jewish Family Services and the Red Cross. We said that we would get residents blankets, for the time being to help with the situation if their apartment, didn't have enough heat. And we've explored the possibility over 2 weeks ago. But the thing is, we're not going to make a public announcement for the sake of making a public announcement to have people feel good when we know what we're trying to do if it cannot happen. And that takes me to my next point. We've been in touch, and I've been in touch with a few residents every step of the way on what we were doing before we came public today. It's easy to sit back and say, give the residents of Stanley Homes a space heater. It's easy to say that. But as mayor of the Atlantic City, the person who's ultimately responsible for the health, welfare, and safety of all the residents, that's not conducive to good government. So we researched by our professionals, the Atlantic City Fire Department, to find the exact type of space heater that we can purchase so that way it's safe, that it's conducive to these apartments. The last thing that we want is to have everyone come to this room and give out 400 heaters and it sets all the apartments on fire. That's not responsible. And I get it. I get people are upset that they living in these conditions, and quite frankly, I'm pissed off too. But we're going to do things the right way and the responsible way. So, the fire chief in the Office of Emergency Management has identified the appropriate heater for the units. And the city is going to step up in a big way and dispatch them at the right time. However, when I first was elected to office as a school board member, we had a training up in Princeton, New Jersey. And they said, you think you're going to come in the office and save the world. There's certain things that you can't do. There's certain things that are not within your power. And I was always told to inspect before you expect. I'm going to say that again. Inspect before you expect. So we decided Friday afternoon to continue our aggressive and proactive approach, but yet take a historical approach. For the first time in the history of the city, we will dispatch our inspectors all to deal with mold, to deal with fire, and any other inspection, soup to nuts. So that way we have the data that shows how many apartments heat is not at the right temperature, what apartment needs mold remediation, and if it's mold, they gotta go, and the housing authority has to put you up. So we are taking that approach starting Thursday morning with the first village. We're gonna do a village per day, and then we're gonna have the report, and we're gonna make it public. And guess what? To the residents of Stanley Homes Village, whatever needs to be done in your apartment, we're gonna give the housing authority that sheet, and we're going to hold them accountable to the fullest extent to make the necessary repairs or do whatever they need to do so you can live in safe and warm conditions during this time. So this is the city's approach. Some people were asking, what was the city doing? If the city didn't do what we did with the emergency declaration, we wouldn't be here today. We'd be in a worse place. So I know people like to play politics, so we're going to play politics right with them, but we're going to do it with facts. We've been on this from day one, and we're going to continue to aggressively handle this situation, and if not, unfortunately, some people are going to have to pay some fines. So I'm going to let my other directors get into a little more details, but I wanted you to hear from us first, the mayor. Yes, we've been on this, we're going to continue to get on this, and we're going to make it right for everyone, for the over 400 units here in Stanley Homes Village. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, and thank you, great job. My name is Dale Finch. I'm Director of Licensing and Inspections in the city. And
my name is Jared Barnes. I'm the Director of Human Services for the City of Atlantic City.
what we have done, or what we're doing, is we attended that meeting last week, and we heard what was discussed in terms of the lack of heat, lack of hot water, the mold issue, the infestation issue. But it was a lot of misinformation. We didn't have any kind of an accurate count. How many people need heaters? How many people don't have hot water? So we met last week, Director Barnes, myself, and Fire Chief Evans, and presented to the administration, to PA Anthony Swan, and to the mayor that we felt that we needed to come in and do an inspection of all the units. That's a pretty big task to do. Again, we did not have jurisdiction under city code as it's a federally owned facility. But with the declaration, through our legal advisement, we were advised we could do this. And with that, we're prepared to do it. Now, today, we're going to post all the facilities that we can today. Put residents on notice that we're coming in. And then tomorrow, as the mayor indicated, we're going to start inspections in Village 1. But we need your cooperation. Let the inspectors in, please. We're going to have inspectors in teams of 2 that will come in and inspect the temperatures of the units, bedrooms, living rooms, the bathrooms. They will inspect the hot water situation in the kitchen and in the bathroom. They will inspect for mold infestation. They will take pictures. They will inspect for rodents, for bed bugs, for roaches, and they will take pictures. They will inspect the ovens to see if they work. They will inspect the refrigerator. They will also inspect the smoke detectors and the CO detectors to see if they work. And that'll give us a good estimation of what the extent of the problems are. And we can come back and really determine and advise HUD of what the conditions and what the seriousness is of the situations. Director Barnes?
Just to reiterate what Director Finch stated, we need to be able to get in every single unit. We want to inspect every unit. We understand that it's 400 plus units. We want to be able to get in every single unit. So this is obviously a notice to let you all know that we will be coming. We will be passing out the notices to all of the units today. If you have your neighbors, your friends, please let them know that we're coming by to pass out the notice, and we need to get into every single unit so we can help you guys out as much as we possibly can.
Just one thing, this is not a full-blown occupancy permit inspection. Okay, if there are other issues,
we will document it.
Right.
We're coming in to inspect these things that Director Finch just stated, but if there's other issues that we see on the surface, we will make a note and we will follow up on that issue. But the main focus now is to make sure that we remediate all the mold issues, the hot water issues, not having a smoke detector. We have to make sure that you guys get the services that you need.
We've asked the neighborhood and community police to accompany the inspectors. Again, we're going to have teams of 2, hopefully between 8 and 10 teams to come out, and hopefully it'll go very quickly where we can get in Village 1 tomorrow and then move on Thursday and Friday to 2 and 3. But that's the game plan. We're going to be very aggressive. The inspectors are well trained in what they need to do, and we hope to get this thing resolved where we can have some intelligent documentation of what needs to be done moving forward.
And that's every single inspector that works for the City of Atlantic City that will be coming here to do the inspection. So we're stopping every single thing that we're doing to come out and assist the residents of Stanley Homes Village.
It's a team effort between the health department and licensing inspection, so we're working together to get this matter resolved. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Battalion Chief Mike Famularo from the Atlantic City Fire Department, also Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator for the city. The Office of Emergency Management is here to support and assist the residents of Stanley Homes and to assist the code enforcement and health department. I mean, right now our main thing is to assure the well-being of all the residents in Stanley Homes. We have been working with, like the mayor said, the Atlantic County Office of Emergency Management, Jewish Family Services, and the Red Cross to acquire blankets for the residents. We will also be, if we do decide to go with the space heaters, we'll work with all departments and make sure they're handed out safely, that all the heaters that are purchased are safe, and we also have a checklist that will go out to all the residents. And the main thing for all the residents, if there is any emergency during this, Don't forget, call 911 and we'll come out and check it out for you. Thanks.
And at this time, if any members of the media have any questions for the mayor or our directors, we'll take those. We ask residents to, if you have any questions, please hold them till after the news conference. So if any members of the media have a question.
Yes, a few questions. You mentioned, Mayor, that there hasn't been a board meeting in several months. Do you know why it didn't happen for 3 months? Also wanted to ask about interim executive director John Clark. Where is he today? You held another press conference on housing authority issues previously, and he was absent from that as well. And does his absence have anything to do with his multiple other executive director positions in other New Jersey communities? And finally, is there anybody from Atlantic City Housing Authority here at all that could speak to why Mr. Clark was hired through his private company, Sunbelt Industries?
Well, your first question was again?
Why hasn't the board met? Why didn't the board meet for 3 months?
Well, I think the board didn't meet because of the situation with HUD. Obviously, I'm not a board member, I can't answer that, but in any organization, to pay bills, to get things done, you have to have a board meeting. But hopefully they'll have one soon, because slowly but surely, things are starting to come into play. What's your other one?
So, where is Mr. Clark today? Why isn't he here?
Well, number one, anytime we do a press conference, particularly we alerted him on the first occasion, told him exactly what we want to say, exactly what we want to do. We told him about the one today. He said that he had a prior engagement until noon. I have another meeting at noon, so the press conference had to move forward today. Next one.
His other positions, he has at least 2 other housing authorities he's the leader of.
Well, I can't speak to what he's doing at other housing authorities. I believe that he's here 2 days a week until we can find a permanent replacement. From what I'm told, that in the next couple of weeks, advertisement will go out for a full-time permanent executive director, and the board will make that decision on who that candidate is.
Okay. And finally, is there anybody here from ACHA who could speak to why Mr. Clark was hired through a private company?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of board members here, and I can't speak for them to say if they wanted to speak. I mean, I guess you can reach out to them and ask them that at another situation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Marshall will speak after the press conference. If you have questions for her.
Okay.
And Mayor, hi, Madeline Wright, CBS 3. You mentioned that if people don't do what they're supposed to do, that some people could have to pay fines. What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. Listen, this isn't no dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. We're coming in those apartments. We're going to give them the findings. We're going to tell them what needs to be fixed and what needs to be done. And if they don't do it, they're going to be fined to the fullest extent of the law. It's just that simple.
Who though? You mean
The housing authority, yes.
What kind of fines could the housing authority make?
To the fullest extent of the law.
And has the city notified HUD about these inspections of every unit? And if so, what has been the response?
The housing authority is well aware of what is happening. Well aware.
And are you able to talk about the timeline of, so the inspections will be over the course of 3 days, and then how long will it take to prepare the report, and then how long will it take for the response?
I'm hoping, and I didn't have a conversation with my team yet, but I'm hoping that we'll have a report on Monday morning.
And if the housing authority doesn't respond appropriately to what's written in the report, then they could face fines?
Absolutely.
Mayor, can you talk about the reasons for the housing authority being put on this zero threshold, and what's being done to address the underlying problems of the housing authority?
Well, the housing authority has had issues with leadership that I'm not going to get into at this press conference. I prefer to stay focused on the subject matter now, but they're in that position. We're working with them to get them out of the position. Our emergency declaration gave us additional powers to assist. And ultimately, I'm going to say it again, ultimately this is the housing authority's responsibility. Their hands are tied with HUD as of now. So we're stepping in because, again, as mayor of Atlantic City, I'm responsible for the health, welfare, and safety. So this is the action that the city's taking.
Is there a way to quantify how much money the city is spending to take these steps to help the residents?
We don't have that dollar amount yet, but I believe whatever the dollar amount is to have our residents live in a quality of life, have a great quality of life, and live in you know, great conditions. I know the long-range plan is to tear Stanley Homes Village down and put everyone in houses, but that's not happening today. So we have to do what we need to do now. I know there's a plan that the city, again, nobody wants to talk about this. The city has taken the steps to give an entire city block to move some people from Stanley Homes at a site that's called Stanley Jr. housing here in Atlantic City. And we're waiting for the Housing Authority to act on that so that way we can start that process.
So are there other HUD residences in the city of Atlantic City?
Yes, there are.
And what are the conditions there?
There are other problems, but I prefer to focus on Stanley Homes Village today.
But it's not just this area, so it's a whole range of conditions.
No.
There was mention of people that were displaced because of heat issues. Do we know how many people were displaced?
I believe it was 9 families at my last count, and they were put up in the Sheraton Hotel next to the convention center.
And that was like this fall?
Yes.
So you say that if HUD, it doesn't come through.
All right, excuse me. Thank you.
If HUD doesn't come through and make the repairs that your city inspectors deem need to be made, that you will fine them to the full extent of
Yes.
the law. But what happens with the residents that continue to not have heat and hot water and the things?
That's why we're doing the inspections. The number is all over the place. You hear 7, you hear 100, you hear 200. So what we're going to do, we're going to inspect before we expect. And once we know what those real numbers are, we're going to take action.
The heat and the hot water seem to fluctuate day by day, week by week. You know, sometimes the residents have heat, sometimes they don't. So at the time that your inspectors come in, if there is heat that day, but then the resident loses it the next day, how are you going to handle that, fluctuation?
Well, we're going to deal with the root cause of the problem first. We're going to find out what the numbers are, and anything after that, we're prepared to deal with.
And a question about numbers. How many inspectors will be doing the inspections, and how many space heaters will be given out? Well,
again, we want to inspect the units. We don't just want to, purchase 450 space heaters when you only need 100. So, excuse me, can you let us conclude the press conference and I'll answer any of your questions after this? Thank you.
Mayor John Clark told me yesterday that they have 10 houses, the Housing Authority has 10 open maintenance positions right now, that they are having trouble hiring people to do the jobs that are needed to be done. Would the city be able to, on an emergency basis, provide the labor for doing some of the fixes?
Well, yes, the Housing Authority has multiple openings, but again, that's a process that the Housing Authority has to deal with. We're doing what we can. We want to do all that we can, but ultimately, it's the Housing Authority's responsibility.
But can you, on an emergency basis, send some folks in to do project repair?
We're going to start with what we're doing. We want to inspect before we expect. Next question.
Forgive me if you answer this, but when did the city file the emergency declaration, and what was the purpose of that?
It was late October, and the purpose was to assist the Housing Authority on an emergency basis. Basic needs such as trash pickup. Trash wasn't being picked up. So are we going to let, rodents build up and have issues with trash blowing all around the neighborhoods? We're not going to do that. So we stepped in and did the right thing.
You guys all good?
Thank you.